Hey friends, welcome to No Matter What. I'm Hannah Seymour, and on this podcast, we just have conversations about how to walk faithfully with Jesus no matter what's going on in our lives. And today, my guest was a homeschool kid from a small town in Ohio who begged her parents, you're going to love this story, to move the whole family, she and her other two siblings, to LA so she could chase a dream. She landed on the Disney Channel. She worked with names like Jennifer Aniston. And by 23, she was successful by every outward measure and pretty lost on the inside. So today, Carrie Alexander, host of New Mom Podcast, talks to us about what it looked like for her to actually meet Jesus, what her 23-year-old idols really were, and what God has been teaching her in the thick of new motherhood. Carrie, thank you so much for coming on No Matter What. This is so fun because I was on your pod. When was that? Like 2 months ago, maybe?
Not long. Yeah. Just like, maybe a month ago.
The summer heat. It was hot.
It was hot and humid and it was rainy probably.
Yes. So anyway, it's always so fun, I think, when I get to be on someone else's show and really connect with that person. And I told you before we hopped on the microphones that I was just jotting down a list of women who I was like, I want to grab coffee with them, AKA I'm going to have them on the podcast. And you were on that
Coffee.
list. I was like, I've got it too.
Okay.
My mug says coffee. So
you're really, we are having coffee.
The most coffee.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm just thrilled to have you on to do a little podcast switcheroo.
Yeah, Hannah, I'm honestly so honored to be here and so excited. I told you before we started recording, I got here an hour early because I was so excited. I was like, we're doing this. Where is she? My coffee was warm. I was ready to go. And then I realized I was too eager. I was like, oh, it's not for an hour, but still here, still excited, and probably calmer because my caffeine is set in. I'm not like on my first sip. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I appreciate that. Okay. So the question I always start off with, our get to know you question on No Matter What, is tell us about who you were at 16 years old. Like, who was Carrie at 16? What were her hopes and dreams? And then if we put 16-year-old Carrie in a time machine and she arrived in your life today in Tennessee, she's seeing your husband, she's seeing your baby, she's seeing what you're doing with your life, what would she think about it all?
Wow. This is such a great question, by the way, and such a fun question for guests to answer. Like, I love it. So, we'll get into my story later, but 16 is kind of unique for me because I was a child actor. So I started acting when I was 12. So 16-year-old Carrie was living in LA. I'm from Ohio, but I was living in LA at the time with my parents and my siblings, and I was homeschooled. So my high school experience was quite unique because I was auditioning all the time. I was on set sometimes, and I didn't go to school in high school. I think I went through like somewhere in middle school and I started homeschooling. So 16 was doing a lot of Disney Channel, doing a lot of auditions, again, in LA with my family. And I think when I think about 16-year-old Carrie, such a dreamer, so driven, never satisfied. And I don't say that in a super negative way, but like I was just getting my dream started and getting my life started. So there was like such an emphasis on the next thing, growing toward all these dreams that I had and still have in some ways. So that was kind of me at 16. And I think another thing that I think about with 16 was like, I was riding the wave of every audition. I didn't know my identity was in Christ yet. I didn't understand that at the time.
Yeah.
And so when I think about 16-year-old me, there's a part of it that's like, oh my gosh, like my heart, like there's so much joy there and so much like youthful dreams and excitement. And then there was also like, a sadness there of just not yet knowing where my identity was rooted, and being in Hollywood at that age, very weird and very challenging when you don't have a close relationship with the Lord. And so I think there was like a loneliness there and maybe something missing I didn't even realize was missing. And so now looking forward, I think that 16-year-old Carrie would be so beyond excited and proud that I found the Lord. I think there would be a surprise in that because I'd always called myself a Christian at that age, but I would see friends that really knew Jesus. And at 16, to be honest, I was a little judgmental of that. I didn't understand because I didn't understand the gospel. And I also think at 16, I would have been at the same time intrigued by people that walked with that peace. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think if I'd see myself, I'm about to be 30. And so I'd see myself and be like, oh my gosh, you're heading toward 30. I'm married with a baby and still pursuing
Yeah.
dreams, but with the Lord. I mean, honestly, more than anything, it would just be an immense excitement and gratitude, I
Mm-hmm.
think, because
Mm-hmm.
at 16, I was scared of, you see a lot of people in Hollywood go a lot of different ways, and there were a lot of
Yeah.
possibilities. And so, of course, not all of those dreams that were on my heart at 16 have come to pass in the way that I had wanted them to.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the deeper dreams of motherhood and family and marriage and prioritizing those things and community and all the
Mm-hmm.
richness that I've gotten to experience, like the fullness of life I've
Mm-hmm.
had the last 6 or 7 years. I think 16-year-old Carrie would honestly just be so relieved and excited to hear that there's there's good things ahead and that it's not only in accolades, but it's just in
Yeah.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. I really connect with you talking about, your identity wasn't in Christ yet, and it was in um, how auditions were going, what roles you were getting. I went to college for music. I was a vocal performance major, and I knew Christ. I mean, I placed my faith in Christ when I was 4 years old. I meant it. There have been peaks and valleys along that journey, but like the Lord has kept me in his hand that whole time. Um, I but in college, my identity was completely wrapped up in how I performed each week in front of our little, like most music schools are like this. Like you have your, voice teacher or your whatever instrument you're doing, and it's all his or her students get together once a week and they perform for each other each week. And so you're working on whatever aria or, thing that you're going to sing. And if I did great that week, I had a great week. And if I didn't do as well as I knew I could, or that my teacher, I had the voice teacher that I studied under was phenomenal, but she was incredibly critical, which, I mean, she's doing her job. She's trying to train people well,
Brutal though.
but like brutal and like zero encouragement. And that was probably the first time in my life that I was starving for someone to tell me that I was doing a good job. And so I think, I mean, that it wrecked me. And I eventually left me. I thought I was going to get my master's in music and probably teach and be in like a metropolitan opera. That was kind of my path, or what I thought I was going to do. And
Wow, I didn't know that.
I left it all together because I was so miserable. And I just knew, even though like I knew my identity was in Christ, I just was like, I can't do this. Like I don't have the maturity or the wisdom or whatever it is that I need to survive this. So anyway, I think that's, yeah, I don't know.
You get
Okay.
it. You get it. I was just going to say dreams at a young age are just challenging because you just don't have the wisdom yet to realize that it can't be everything because you're just
Yeah.
gripping so tightly. And hope,
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll always struggle with that as humans, but I do think the older
Yes.
we get, the easier it is to see that there's more to life than just, the dream achievement, especially as artists. Yeah.
Yes. And you can have dreams and goals and hopes and things that you want to achieve. But I think learning to just hold those so open handed. And I think as believers, we get to go, okay, Lord, I want this. And right now, unless you tell me otherwise, I'm going to believe that you've given me this want, you've given me this desire. But the way that it turns out, the fruit that comes from that may or may not look how I think it's going to look,
Totally.
but like but Lord, I trust you. And so whatever you want to do with this, I want to write a book. I want to launch a podcast. I want to launch a small business. I want to, all these things that these like dreams and hopes and ideas that we come up with, going, okay, I'm going to trust that the Lord gave this to me to do it, but the outcome may look different. And as believers, we get to have a confidence and a hope and a joy in that. Even when it doesn't turn out the way that
100%.
we think it should or want it to, or
Totally. Preach.
Okay, let's go back to, so you're growing up in Ohio. Are your parents believers?
Yeah, so we were raised in church. Raised in church, raised Presbyterian. Parents took me to church. And yeah, I would say like I just had one of those stories as like a kid that just didn't connect it. Like it never felt like the relationship just wasn't there. And so the interesting thing was when we started acting, I look back now at my relationship with the Lord and I was like, so why did I believe in him but I didn't think he cared. And I don't know exactly why, but I thought that he had bigger fish to fry. And so I always felt like my needs and things weren't weren't important and he didn't see them or care. So then I just shut him out, never let him in. And then eventually that just turns into religion and not faith. There's no relationship there. So yeah. So I was raised in Ohio. My parents, was raised in church, understood who God was, understood who Jesus was, kind of, and not really, like just didn't connect fully what he had done for me and that he loved me as I was and grace, didn't get it. And then, so small town Ohio, my parents are like born and raised there, high school sweethearts. We were never leaving. They built their dream house. And then out of the blue, we see this ad in the newspaper. My mom did. And it was a girl that was on Disney Channel at the time that was coming to our small town to do a meet and greet and acting class. And I was like, my mom was like, do you know who this is? Like, I was obsessed with Disney Channel. I was the girl that was in my room every day reciting all the lines, wearing the same outfits as Hannah Montana, Lizzie McGuire, and all of them, like writing down the lines on a notebook, like reciting Psycho. But a lot of girls do that. I don't know. Like, I never thought I should be an actress.
Yes and no. Cause like I remember I was too old for Barney, but my sister watched Barney, and every once in a while they would like give a casting call thing at the end of one of their shows. And I remember thinking like, I want to submit a video. Cause first of all, I was like, I can sing better than all of those kids on that.
I got this.
And then I'm like, I could do that. But like, I wasn't doing that, So I think there's a lot of
there
children.
Might be layers. Yes. I always laugh because I'm like, I'm sure there's a lot of kids that their parents are like, they should be on Disney. And it's like, yeah, sure. But now looking back, I'm like, but I was really into it. Like it was next level with the learning the lines. But anyway, so I said I wanted to do it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to go to this acting class. And I met this actress that was on Disney. And I just fell in love with it and became, like, for lack of a better word, obsessed. It was just a dream completely awakened at age 11. And my siblings also were down. They were younger than me. I'm the oldest of 3. And they were like, honestly, sounds fun. They took the classes with me. And I mean, looking back, I'm like, Lord, wait, what? This is such a random story because we were so ingrained in our small town. But we begged my parents. I begged my parents. We all did, I guess. To just let us do one step at a time. That's what I kept saying. I was like, would you just let us go? Because the first step was to go to Dallas and to meet with agents and managers and perform on the stage, and you could get signed with an LA or New York agent. And I was like, can we just like take the classes to go to that? It's, please. And my parents, after much persuasion, were like, okay, she's obsessed with this. And I was never like super passionate about anything else. Like I had played sports. I was athletic, but there was no like crazy passion like this. And so I think my parents saw that.
That's serious drive for a 12-year-old.
You're right. That's a great word
younger,
for it.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. I was 11 at the time. Yeah. And I was like, please. And so we did. We went to Dallas. And then from there, the agents and managers were like, hey, if you come out to LA, we would consider signing you. And so I begged, we went out there, we did meetings, and then they're like, it's just always one step at a time. Then we get out there and they're like, great. So if you guys give us a pilot season here, if you give us 3 months on the ground, we'll sign you and you can audition for TV and film and commercial and we'll totally take you on. But you do need to be here for 3 months. And so then I look at my parents, I'm heading into 6th grade and I'm like, can we come for 3 months? And so again, my parents would be like, there's so much more to the story. But basically, long story short, with much persuasion, my siblings and I and my mom come out. We lived in a hotel for 3 months in LA. We signed with a big agency and a management company. And at age 12, we started doing commercials and we started auditioning everywhere, all over LA. The funny part is, Hannah, my mom doesn't drive on the freeway. And so my mom, like small town Ohio, and we're all over Los Angeles on back roads. It was like the days of Google Maps. So I would write things down in crayon and be like, right on Wilshire, left on Santa Monica. And I would just sit in the back seat and tell my mom, like, all over Los Angeles on the back roads. So I know LA like the back of my hand. We had to literally like take the alleyways basically to get around because she still doesn't drive on the freeway. She lived there 17 years, never gone on the freeway.
Wow.
Crazy.
That
so anyway, that's
wild.
Like we did that short term, and then long story short, when I was like an 8th grader, we went back home for a year. My parents were like, let's reassess, let's see, go do sports, be normal kids. And we missed it so much. And again, me leading the charge as the oldest, I was like, I want to move to LA. I want to do it. And we did when I was a freshman, and we were there for 17 years. Like we've done the thing, and I spent my high school, my college years, all of it, just like on the ground, working, auditioning. Yeah.
And are your siblings, they're not in LA anymore either, right? I know your parents
We all moved just this year. Yeah. So we were all,
Oh.
everybody moved, including my parents. So my sister's in Nashville now where I am. And then my brother is
That's
in
great.
Ohio and Michigan and lives up there, and my parents are in Ohio. So we all kind of moved back. But we're still, well, I guess they would say they're not doing it at the moment, but I'm still auditioning. I married an actor. We're still doing the thing, but it has been like a long journey.
Wow.
And it's one of those things where you don't realize your story is unique until you get older. We all probably
Oh,
have
yeah.
those parts of
Oh,
ourselves where you're
because
like,
it's just your
yeah,
story. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
it's growing up as a pastor's kid. People would always ask, like, what is it like growing up as a pastor's kid? And I would say, I don't know. What was it like growing up as an accountant's kid? Like, it's all you know. You have nothing to compare it to. So
Exactly.
it's your norm. What would you say? What you're an adult now, you're married, you have a child. Looking back at that story through the lens of your parents, their marriage, they're wanting to be good stewards of what God has given them, which includes their children, which includes shepherding, like I don't know what's the lesson that you take from them that you are like keeping in your back pocket for your own life?
I mean, I think all of us as a family, we're very close, and we became very close when we had to, because you moved to LA as a family that, doesn't want to become just totally eaten alive by the industry, and you see a lot of that with child actors. And so we were very, very close. And I'm so grateful for that. And I think like if there's something I would take away from my parents, I'm always just feel like so thankful. And also sometimes I'll be like, I'm so curious, like why you guys, like, you really listened to me, like you really cared about my dreams. And I think there are a lot of people that do that maybe there's like other motives going on. You see a lot of kids out in LA and it's like, okay, you can kind of see what's happening. But they really just wanted to support us. And I feel like it's probably similar to parents that like they do the select sports. They'll travel wherever. They'll do, I think they just saw our dreams, and our dreams were ridiculous. Our dreams were not the typical thing that you would, that so many other people had that were local or sports or whatever. It's like they just kind of were willing to take the leap. And I think looking back, at our whole story, I'm just so grateful that my parents were willing, because
Mm,
where I am today, I just look at my husband and my son and my dreams, and also the career that I've gotten to have. I feel so grateful for the
mm,
experience. And I'm sure that if we would have stayed in Ohio, there would have been beautiful things that came from that. But how much it shaped who I am, and how much um, I'm just someone who got to pursue my dreams at such a young
yeah.
age. And I feel so grateful for that. And I always want to, I don't know, I hope that shapes the way I parent too,
Mm,
in a way of just like seeing my kids or their creative dreams, even at, a young age. Cause it is, a lot of
mhm.
parents would have been like, do theater, you know, um,
100%.
which I
But
get,
also,
you know?
but also I would say most kids don't have that kind of drive. I mean, that
Mhm.
to me, like that was God's stamp on you,
Yeah.
like I think sometimes we can see our kids most of the time everything's very common. Like they might excel. And I mean, of course, they're gonna have places that they excel or things that they're interested in, but like every once in a while you just see like where God just stamped a kid and you're like, whoa, I don't know
That's
how
true.
he's gonna use that, but
Oh,
um,
that's so true,
you
Hannah. Cause like
know,
I was so obsessed with it that like I would learn my siblings' lines for every audition. I would staple their headshot
yeah.
and resume and cut it out. I would run their lines with them. Like I just loved it. And now that I'm an adult, I think it's so precious. But I think being stamped is a really good way of putting it. Cause I was like, why do it's just a passion, and I absolutely loved
Yeah.
it. And I still am seeing like what the Lord, does with that.
Mm.
But yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
So tell me about when you went from kind of knowing about Jesus and knowing the gospel to it really um landing in your heart and
Yeah.
you really understanding like what Christ had done for you and what it means to have a relationship with Jesus and
Mhm. Complete before and after moment. So, because I was raised in church, I always say I was a Christian before, but I, by the time I was 23 when I really accepted Jesus, and at that time in my life, um, it was not looking like I was a Christian. Like if you were just looking from the outside, I may have said that I believed in God, but I had my identity was completely wrapped up in success, work. I
sure.
was hanging out with the wrong people. I was not in a healthy relationship. I was just very lost at 23, and struggling. And I think that was just the fruit of 8 years at that point of just being surrounded by LA, and feeling like I was just chasing this thing that I could never catch. And, it just starts to affect you after a while. But anyway, so it was 2023, and I just kind of came to this point. It was over COVID, and we're all in LA, like hunkered down. We weren't going anywhere. And I had a sweet friend who probably just had a poke from the Lord say, hey, you should join this Zoom Bible study. I know you're a Christian, and like, you should join it. It's going to be on Zoom. And so I did. And I mean, I just encountered the Lord, and it was the first time that I prayed with a group of women, again, in this kind of a setting on a computer. It was all very very foreign to me. Weird. I like encountered the Lord by she had us lay on all of our floors and like picture the Lord, we were just all laying on our bedroom floors. And I mean, the Lord just met me there, and it was so powerful because, again, I wasn't in a great relationship. And I remember there were all these women on the call in the little squares, and I didn't say a word. I was like such an observer, at your first Bible study ever where you're just like, yeah. And which is so funny because now you can't get me to shut up. But at the time I was like, no way I'm praying. No way I'm talking. I'm just going to observe. And then at some point they asked, does anyone need prayer for something? Does anyone need, and people just started kind of confessing and opening up. And so I finally was like, I need to pray that God moves in my life. And this person, there was just this relationship going on that just wasn't right for me. And I opened up, and I really believe that's when the Lord said, I just think that's when he met with me. And I think that's when it all changed, because I've tried to trace it back, as we all probably do with our testimonies. Yeah. But that was the first moment that I admitted, and I had the courage to say, I need a savior. I need help. I don't like where this is going. And in that same Bible study, they had us write down, which I think I've mentioned to you, who do you want to be when you're 90? And I wrote it down, and I was like, when you're 80, and I was like, okay, I want to be this person, and the way that I'm living is just not going to produce that. And so I was like, Lord, I need you. I want you. I want to have a family. I want to have a marriage. I was so career driven that I was like, I'm not going to get married. I'm not going to have kids. I'm not doing any of that till I've hit my mark, until I've earned it, until I have absolutely achieved whatever level of success I was chasing. And then I'll pursue marriage. That'll be second fiddle. I'll pursue kids, third fiddle. We'll do that eventually. Sure. And when I wrote down who I wanted to be, it was so different. And it was so much of who I want my children to think, what do I want them to say about me one day when I'm older? And what's the kind of wife that I want to be? And I just realized my priorities were different. And so it was in that same time when, crazy enough, my husband came into the picture out of nowhere. The same month, this is all going on with this Bible study. It's COVID, it's lockdown. And my husband, I had gone on a date with this guy, didn't go anywhere. It was before this other relationship, years before. And I got a text from that guy. I didn't even have his number saved. And he was like, hey, so we went on a date years ago. Don't know if you remember me, but I think you're perfect for my best friend. And this is a total pitch for Connor. And I was like, what? I'm just sitting here, and I'm scrolling, I'm seeing all these photos of him. And it was like, he's a Christian. He's a worship leader. He's an actor. I just feel like you guys would hit it off. He's from Georgia. And I was like, I don't even have this guy's number saved, but I think his friend's really cute. And so I was like, yeah. Anyway. And so we met, and he knew I was the run. Connor knew I was the one right away, but I was so fresh in my faith. We're talking, this is all happening in the same month. And so I felt, honestly, a lot of shame. I wasn't fully free of my mistakes. And I felt like, oh, you think I'm a Christian, and you think I'm there. I'm not ready for that. And so he moved to Atlanta. I told him basically no. I was like, you need to go. So, do your thing. I need to I need to find my faith on my own. I need time. And in those maybe 6 months after we went on a few dates, he just continued to pray for me, and he just knew I was the one. And I continued on my own to just seek the Lord and find him. And I found so much peace, to the point where I feel like I really understand the Lord just washing us clean of our sin, like white as snow. Because I remember by the time I finally was ready, and my husband came back around and called me one day, and I answered, and it was just immediately. The day before, I was like, no, because I kept rejecting him. No. He'd check in every few months. No. And then one day he called me, and it was my heart had just flipped, and there was no more shame. And there was just complete peace and excitement. And I mean, we literally fell in love in a week, got engaged in less than a year. The rest was history. But it was so beautiful, because the Lord, I felt like the second I accepted him, and so many girls, I'll tell my sister the story and she's always like, I don't want to hear it. I've waited a long time for my husband. I don't, I followed the Lord for how many years? I'm not here. But she's like, it's so unfair. But it's actually beautiful, because the second that I was like, Lord, this relationship is not, I know it's not honoring to you.
Yeah.
He brought my husband like the same day. Like, there's just no other way to put it. It's
Just
like, what
wild.
happened? And
Yeah.
so it was just so kind, because he was like, I have more for you. And so we got to grow together, because my husband was also an actor. He'd been out in LA. He had lived the LA lifestyle for a while and had come back to his faith through Alpha, that ministry, a few years
Yes.
prior. Yeah. And so he had really grown in his faith for a few years, was able to lead me, but we were also still kind of babies together in our 20s of like
Yeah.
figuring out faith, finding it together, dating, trying to figure out purity and all those things that were just like really beautiful. And so by the time we got married, we had really like grown to become this like, godly couple as much as we could. And
Yeah.
it was really beautiful. So, yeah.
I think it's so fun hearing different people's stories on A, coming to Christ, and then B, like, when you meet your spouse or when you eventually have kids, and just because it's all different, right? But almost every single time, the thread of waiting on the Lord's timing, and like maybe you didn't have to wait exactly to meet Connor, but like there still was a period of waiting. And I think we need to hear and be reminding each other over and over and over that God has so much work to do on us in the waiting periods. Like we hate to wait.
We hate it. It
Whether
doesn't get
we're
easier.
waiting for the red light to turn green, or we're waiting to get pregnant, or we just want everything now. And I think that's understandable. I think that's human, but just constantly reminding ourselves, like, the Lord loves a wait. Oh, man.
And he will use a wait if you let him. He will use it.
Yeah. And so then it's like, well, what's my attitude going to be when I'm having to wait? What am I looking for when I'm waiting? Am I looking for the goodness and faithfulness of God? Or am I looking, to be mad about stuff, or comparing my wait to how it seems like someone else didn't have to wait?
Which you can always do, by the way.
Yes.
There's always going to be someone that didn't have, like, look at my story. People be like, well, oh God, I had to wait. But there's so many things in life I've had to wait on, but not that one. We're always going to find someone who has our story, but better, but faster.
Yes.
Always. There's always going to be someone.
But we just, and we can't discount, like, well, what, I don't know. It's just not fair. It's not fair for us to compare our race, my race to your race to who, anyway. Okay, one more thing, and then we have to talk about the new mom pod.
Yes.
Something that I wrote down that I guess I just wanted to say out loud is really when you were talking about before fully coming to Christ, I wrote down, who is your God? Because it was like, as you were talking, I was like, yeah, your God was your career and success in Hollywood. And I think that, again, I think, like, while I knew Christ, I think my God was being a vocal performance major and trying to find success in that. It's like, or your God can be in your children, that you are like, they are the ones that are on the throne. Or, but I think it's just a good thought for all of us to, maybe monthly come back to, like, who's your God?
So good.
Because what you worship, I think I know only the Lord, if he is on the throne, are you going to see the fruit of peace and joy and contentment, even when not everything's right? Like, you can have hardship, you can have pain, you can have suffering, but if Christ is on the throne and if God is God in your life, there is going to be evidence of peace and joy and hope and light and contentment. And if there's anything else on that throne, it's going to be anxiety, fear, stress, emptiness, striving, hustling. Like, I just, I don't know.
Say that. No, that is so good. Idolatry, 100%. That was my idol for years. And so now walking as actors and as creatives and whatever, like, since I've done the Lord, has been the most challenging, slow, like, it's still, we're still, and peaceful time. Like, because it's just like, Lord, if you have it for me, great. If you don't, great. Like, there's like, there's so much fruit and in surrender. And I just think that's, like you said, weekly, monthly, like, what is your God currently? I had to get off of social media last week. So I was like, no, like, it may not be my God, but it's too much. It's getting
Yeah.
there. It's getting there where
Yeah.
I'm getting anxiety from looking at it, or I'm getting,
Yeah.
and I think, you're right. Like, it's not just something we're like, that used to be my God, but it's like, no, we need to like constantly be checking our hearts for what is my God this week? What is my God today? What am I focused on more than the Lord? And what am
Yeah.
I worshiping more than the
Worshiping.
Lord? Which is, happens frequently. So
I
yeah,
think it
that's
happens a
really
lot.
true.
I think it happens a lot. And I think
Mhm.
we don't talk about it enough, and we're not like self-reflective enough of like, oh wow, what am I worshiping? And because the symptoms are out there. Like if you're worshiping anything other than the Lord, you're going to see that or symptoms of that in your life.
Yeah, you're going
Okay.
to see that fruit, which is
Yeah.
not
Like bad
really
fruit.
very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's rotten fruit.
Busted fruit.
Yeah.
Okay. At some point, tell us about the journey of deciding to start the New Mom podcast.
So this is cool. The reason that I love this story is because I came to faith over COVID, so much of my faith journey at the beginning was Christian podcasting because, churches were closed. I was in LA. So since then, of course, I've gotten to like see in-person church, had amazing teaching, all of that. And I don't think anything replaces that. But I do think obviously Christian podcasting, I think it's a beautiful ministry.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I am such an advocate for it because it literally grew my faith, and it shaped so much of the foundation of my faith, along with just reading the Gospels a lot. It was like that and Christian podcasts and listening to good teaching and listening to conversations, like stories like this. I'm very impacted by people's stories. I'm impacted by testimonies. I remember things, I hold on to things, and the Lord speaks to me in that way. So anyway, I've always loved podcasts, and kind of like acting, looking back now, I'm like, oh, like it kind of makes sense that I have one. I just thought I was a super fan of them. I was like, I can't, I was always the girl that it's like, I'm always like, I have a podcast for you. It's like my love language. I'm going to send you something. I have a word for you. It's a podcast. And so it kind of makes sense as creatives now in this time that like I would want to do it. So I'd always kind of had it on my heart. Like that would be really fun because though I still love acting, I mean, Jesus is the center of our lives, and I can't help but encourage my friends. I can't help but talk about the Lord. I can't help but explain the goodness of God in my life and want you to feel it in yours. And so when I became a mom, I was feeling like we were kind of traveling for my husband's work. So I was alone. And, the beginning phase of motherhood, my son was a few months old at this point. It's kind of an isolating time where
Very.
yeah, I was like miss serve at church. I was miss there all the time. Social. We were very social. And then my husband's on set in Charleston. So we're off like living at a hotel, just the three of us. And it was just a time where I was like, Lord, I feel like I really have this heart because my son was like out of the newborn phase, but still a baby. And I'm sitting there and I was just full on wife and mom, which I absolutely was loving. But I just kept feeling like I don't have that friend on my couch that I can encourage with coffee right now. But I know that like that encouragement is just going to pour out of me somewhere. And so I ended up basically within like a week kind of praying about like, what would that look like in this season of motherhood? Because I was constantly like voice memoing with friends and being like, hey, you got that, whatever. We're all encouraging each other. And I was like, you know what? I've always talked about a podcast. I just didn't know what it would be. And I felt like that was the moment where the Lord was like, the encouragement that you're all giving each other right now on voice messages from across the country, maybe this is the idea. Maybe this is the community. This is the heart. And so that birthed New Mom podcast. And it has been like such a joy because my husband is the producer. We do it together. And it is like, it just fills my cup. It fills my cup. I get so much out of it. Like just getting to have moms on, either new moms that are right along, in this journey with me. And then also having moms that are further along, like having you on where you're like, okay, you're maybe 10 years ahead of me in the journey, however long. And it is just so, I mean, motherhood, once you become a mom, it's like this unspoken club where you're just like, even if you're meeting someone out of the context of motherhood, you hear they have kids, you're like, you get it. You get it. There's a lot there.
We have a very big shared experience. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Okay. You see me. And I think that so often, like all the conversations in the podcast that I love, you hear these amazing women that are mothers talk a lot about these other things that they're pursuing, which is so beautiful. I absolutely admire so many women in ministry for that reason that are sharing their hearts. Just like you with your book, like it's so great. And I'm always like, now that I'm a mom, I'm like, I kind of want to ask them about like the other side of it. Like I kind of just want to talk about like the behind the scenes stuff because that's where I'm at a lot of the time. And so it's just been such a joy, and the Lord has met me in it. And I love it. And I hope that every new mom that listens, like every time I get a message of someone being like, I'm in postpartum, I had the same experience as you, or this episode, I just feel so seen. Every time people say they feel seen, that makes my heart like explode, because that's
Yes.
what I think the enemy tries to get moms so isolated, to feel so alone, to feel filled with shame, to feel like they're the only ones that are having this experience, the
Yes.
only ones that are stressed, the only ones that are tired, the only ones that can't handle it. And obviously it's not true. It's very much, it's all unique to an extent. It's kind of a universal experience that we're all doing for the first time. And it's this new identity that we're stepping into. And so I think just like talking about those pieces and kind of going there is just like so fulfilling, and hopefully is breaking chains and making women feel less alone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I always tell new moms, you have to start a text thread with, I mean, at least one person. I would say, 3, 4, 5, even better, of other friends of yours who are moms just a tiny bit ahead of you. Like, I'm like, listen, you can text me. I'm happy to answer your questions, but my youngest is 5. Like, it is wild how much you forget, or even like, yeah, I do remember that was horrible, but like it'll pass. Like, it's so short, but when you're in the season of it, it feels like it's never going to pass.
Yeah,
And so
so
anyway,
true.
I'm like, you need to curate a small group of women that you can text being like, whether it's like breastfeeding is hurting so bad, or like whatever, just all these, so many crazy things happen to you in that newborn phase of life. And just to have people that are not a year away from it, that are 6 months to a year away
Yes.
from it, that really, really remember. And so I think what's so fun, I mean, I know you have women on your podcast that it's not all like new mom era, but it's like you're kind of curating that for people, because not everyone has that. And that's what sometimes I will meet people that are like, I'm the first one in my friend group to have a baby, and I'm like,
I've heard
okay,
a
what
lot of
about,
women say that. Yeah.
I'm like, what about a sister-in-law? What about and they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, you need to, like, your goal before you have this baby is to go to church and just look for two
One
other
mom.
women.
Yeah.
What? It's like,
Just
and
find
again,
one.
I'm like, I'm happy to answer any questions, but like, it's just wild how quickly you forget. And
You
so
do.
anyway,
It's funny because I've had a few pregnant girls on lately, and I am like, oh my gosh, I remember, like, it's coming back to me when they're like, yeah, just that's at the end, that pressure and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, okay, next time I'm pregnant, I'm going to have a whole another wave of things to talk about, because I completely forgot that this is a thing.
yes.
And so it's really cool to have like seasonal conversations. And I have so many friends that are like, right now, one of my best friends just had her baby girl like a month ago. And so she's texting me and she's like, oh my gosh, like this thing on postpartum and this thing, and that this is like all so helpful in real time, because she and her husband are in the first month of becoming parents, and we did a parent episode, and she was like, I can't express like these specific things, talking about weighted feeds, talking about who's going to wake up with the baby, and just things that you're like, that'll pass, that's just a quick season. But
100%.
sometimes
Yes.
there's got to be a place to get into those details.
Yes, you need a friend to walk you through it. And yeah, on my side, I'm like, oh, this, it's gonna be over before you know it. I don't remember, whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, I know this is an unfair question, but what is your most favorite conversation you've had on New Mom, at least, or like recently? You don't have to say of all time, but like one that's like really stuck with you, and you are constantly thinking about that conversation.
Well, one that I actually had just a few weeks ago. There's so many good ones. But just a few weeks ago, I had someone on, Chelsea DeMattis, and she's wonderful. And she was talking about, God told me, like, you haven't lost yourself by becoming a mom. You are discovering new and beautiful parts of yourself. And she was just saying
That's
that
really
so
good.
many of us, yes, we all kind of speak that over ourselves. Like, I'm just in that, I just feel like I've lost myself right now, or, it'll come back later. And she was like, what if, like, this is God? And you kind of said this when we talked in our conversation too. God always knew, like, he knows. I think about that all the time when you say, like, he knows exactly where you're going to live, and that you are a mom, you are a wife, you're doing these things. This isn't like a foreign concept to him. He created you this way. And so when you're in the thick of that, I don't know, just that concept that you're not losing yourself. The Lord is going to use that part of your life to grow you. And it's actually who you're meant to be. It's a part of you. And so it's not about, yeah, sure, there's grieving of pieces of your old self, but she just talked about instead just seeing it as like, oh my gosh, like a whole new phase, a whole new level of me and a layer to me, and new dreams are being birthed and new refinement. Like the hardest things in life are the best things. They shape us. Like our kids, it's such a challenging season.
Yes.
It's also the greatest thing we'll ever do, you know, is get to raise these disciples. And so anyway, that really stuck with me and has helped me stop thinking, oh my gosh, the old me, like I've lost this. Like, well, what am I gaining? What is the Lord teaching me? Because I didn't have this in my tool belt, you know, a year ago.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Okay. And then what is one thing that you feel like the Lord has shown you through this season of motherhood?
It's a really good question. It's kind of cliche, but I feel like he's really helped me see that every single day with your kid is a season. Like it's all going to pass. And I feel like for so long I was just like in survival mode, trying to just like get to the next day, get to the next day, to the next thing. But then when you realize he's changing every single day, like my kid is changing every single day, my marriage is growing every single day. So like really I just need to be just fully present each day and not worry about, I think I lived a lot of the first year in survival mode. And I feel like, I mean, to be honest, I think I'm looking back now and realizing I had some postpartum anxiety the first year. And I'm just, the clouds are lifting for me on that at 14 months postpartum right now. And I'm realizing, oh, I was like survival mode for a really long time. And I think now it's not that, I mean, sure, maybe it's gotten a little easier. My kid's at a fun age, sure. But really, I think it's more so I'm growing in acceptance of every day is going to be what it's going to be. This is fleeting. So let's embrace instead of like shut down and survive. And I think that's something that God's just inviting me into and kind of growing me in. And I have noticed a difference. My husband said, not to toot my own horn, but my husband did say the last few weeks, he said, I've noticed a major shift with you. I was like, really? And that meant so much to my heart because sometimes I can get overwhelmed with it. And he's like, you seem like you're enjoying it so much right now.
Wow.
And it's not because it got so much easier. It's just because I think I'm really leaning into this is all so fleeting. Like, let's just embrace the chaos. Let's smile when I'm overwhelmed and overstimulated because it actually helps me to smile when I'm like, my brain's gonna explode, you're screaming. And I'm like, baby, it's okay. And I laugh instead. It's psycho. It's a little psycho, but it works. And it really helps me stay calm.
It does. Yeah. Two thoughts. One, John Ortberg in one of his, it's actually a spiritual discipline book, but he talks, I think it's his chapter on maybe biblical celebration, but he talks about how he would, get home from work and just be trying to like survive and push through specifically bath time, bedtime routine with his kids. And because bath time, bedtime is a nightmare for almost everybody, and it's like, it's exhausting, whether you have one child or you have five, like it's just, and especially when they're so little, I'm sure it's different, but still hard as they grow up. But he basically was just really convicted, like, why am I trying to just get through this? This is my life. This is my life right now. Bathing this 4-year-old, little girl who does not want to be bathed and who it's so hard to get her in the tub. And then it's hard to get her out of the tub because once she's in the tub, she doesn't want to get out of the tub. And she's running around naked. And I just want to get her PJs on her and get her in her bed. And it's like, wait. This is actually my life right now. And I'm just trying to rush through it. So that I can go watch TV on the couch after my kids are asleep? Like don't
good,
miss,
Hannah.
like, it's this idea of like, we think that there's living and then it's like waiting to live, these things that we have to do, driving from point A to point B, or, all these times that we're just trying to get to the next thing. And it's like, no, it's always the thing, no matter what you're doing, that is living. The other thing, I just read a book that has, some books just really stick with me. It's a fiction book, but I won't even go into the premise of the book. What I have taken out of it is imagining my 85-year-old self. I mean, in my book, I talk about who do you want to be at 90, but this book, I think the main character is like 80, 85. And it's imagining my 85-year-old self in the room with me right now, watching me. And what would she think or what would she say? And not in a guilty shame way, but in like a, don't miss this. Put your phone down. Your kid just asked you to go play a card game with him and you're trying to post something on social media. Put it down. Doesn't matter. Your child will not be 8.5 asking you to play a guard. And so it's really helped me, it's only been like a week, maybe 2, but I just feel like I'm constantly being able to choose the better thing, which is like just enjoying it and soaking them up. And yes, it's hard.
Yes.
9, 7, and 5 it's hard. I am so tired at the end of the day. But they're not going to be 9, 7, and 5 forever. And just knowing like my 85-year-old self is going to be like, girl, you'll have so much time to lay on the couch and read whatever book you want to read and write whatever you want to, like you're going to have so much solitude and so much time to do whatever you want without interruption. So now like welcome the interruptions.
Embrace it. I had a man at church yesterday, a dad who was so precious. And he said to me, he was like, how old's your son? I was like, oh, he's 14 months. And he said, okay, and it's your first? And I was like, yeah. He said, okay, well, I have 5 kids. And his oldest was 20. He was there with him. And he said, I'm just going to give you some advice. I know you're tired. From 1 to 10, when your kids are from 1 to 10, which is like right where you're at in the thick of it. He's like, that's the best decade you'll ever have in your home. He's like, so just soak up that specific decade. He's like, teenagers are a blast. My kid's 20, it's fun. That's the decade of your family's life that is like the golden decade. And it's not to speak death over the other ones, but it's just to say like, soak that up and know it's so good when you're 85. That's probably the decade you're going to maybe long for the most is that specific 1 to 10 of your kids. And so that is helping me kind of in that same theme.
That's
and
sweet.
I love that. Like, don't miss it.
It's sweet.
So good.
That's sweet. Okay, Carrie, close us out. Finish the sentence. No matter what.
Seek Jesus in everything. That's honestly just how I feel. Like every time I invite him in, there is just joy and there is peace. Seek him and you'll find him.
Yeah. I love that. Amen. Well, Carrie, thanks for coming on no matter what. Thanks for being my new friend. And
this is so fun. I'm so happy to have you as a friend. This is a blast. I'm seriously so honored.
Okay, friends, that's all for today. If you loved this episode, would you leave a review? It helps so much and it helps other women find the show. Go follow Carrie over at New Mom Podcast. Find her on Instagram. And you can always find me at hannahseymour.com or on Instagram as Hannah E. Seymour. And of course, everydayspiritualhabits.com for my book. Thanks for listening. I don't take this for granted. As always, humbled and honored that you put me in your ear each week. And I'll be back next week.